Hi, everyone. All right, happy Tuesday. Okay, a couple of items for you at the top. Today, President Biden is issuing an executive order requiring federal contractors to pay a $15 minimum wage to hundreds of thousands of their employees. These workers are critical to the functioning of federal government, from cleaning professionals and maintenance workers to nursing assistants who care for the nation's veterans to cafeteria and other food service workers who ensure we all have healthy and nutritious food to eat, to laborers who build and repair federal infrastructure. The executive order will increase the hourly minimum wage for federal contractors to $15 in new and renewed contracts and contract options starting in January 2022. This increase must be implemented by March 30th, 2022. Continue to index the minimum wage to an inflation measure so it keeps up the cost of living with the cost of living. Eliminate the tipped minimum wage for federal contractors by 2024. Ensure a $15 minimum wage for federal contractors with disabilities, and restore minimum wage protections to outfitters and guides operating on federal lands. Also, as you may remember, and I think this announcement just went out, but President Biden signed a Made in America executive order directing federal agencies to ensure taxpayer dollars supporting American manufacturing. We've been, of course, hard at work delivering on that commitment, and today the President announced the appointment of Celeste Drake as the nation's first Made in America director, which I think is a great title. As Made in America director within the Office of Management and Budget, she will make sure agencies follow the President's ambitious Buy American commitment and will help continue the work to carry out his bold Made in America agenda. Also today, two more items here. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, the Department of Health and Human Services is announcing the availability of $1 billion for the construction and renovation of community health centers. The funding builds on President Biden's commitment to ensuring equity and access to COVID-19 response efforts and high-quality primary health care services. Community health centers are a critical pipeline, as we've talked about a bit in here before, for our COVID-19 vaccination efforts, and all of the nation's nearly 1,400 Health Resources and Services Administration funded health centers will be eligible for these funds. Finally, following the President's address to the joint session of Congress, we are launching the Getting America Back on Track tour to highlight the successes of the first 100 days in addressing the crises facing our country, vaccinating America to beat the pandemic, more than 200 million Americans to be exact, delivering much needed financial help to American families, making transformative investments to rescue and rebuild our economy, and fundamentally showing the government can deliver for people. We'll also use the tour to take the case directly to the American people about the vital need for action on the jobs plan and the families plan, which the President will be laying out in detail tomorrow evening, so we can make badly needed investments in the financial security of middle-class families, as well as in jobs, growth, and competitiveness. After the joint session, the President, Vice President, First Lady, Second Gentleman, and Cabinet members will fan out across the country. On Thursday, as you know, the President and First Lady will travel to Georgia, and the Vice President will go to Baltimore. On Friday, the President will travel to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Vice President will go to Ohio, and the Second Gentleman will head to North Carolina. They will be traveling, of course, next week as well, and we will announce additional stops then. Hello, Josh. Go ahead. Kick us off.
Thanks much, Jen. The census recently came out and reallocated congressional seats. Does the White House share the concerns that Hispanics were undercounted as part of the census?
Well, first, let me say that the President took steps when he took office to overturn the policies of the Trump administration, or the approach to counting by the Trump administration. That was one of the first steps he took. As you know, this process is carried out by career apolitical experts. It was announced yesterday because they needed additional time, and we thought that was absolutely appropriate. Of course, the steps that are taken to allocate congressional seats is set by statute and has been in place since 1941. In terms of the impact of the last administration, I would send you to the census. We're not in a position to assess that.
Secondly, a report came out today from Human Rights Watch about Israel, saying that Israel is guilty of international crimes of apartheid and persecution because of discriminatory policies toward Palestinians. Israel has rejected that characterization. Does the White House think the report is accurate or inaccurate?
Well, Justice State Department has its own rigorous process for making atrocity determinations and reports on human rights abuse issues globally on an annual basis through the human rights reports that they issue, they do briefings on, and they put out publicly. The department has never used such terminology. As to the question of whether Israel's actions constitute apartheid, that is not the view of this administration. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Jay. Is the president going to change his own personal habits to adapt to the new CDC guidelines?
Certainly. He'll be following public health guidelines. So I think you saw him outside today. He took the mask off. He didn't put the mask back on. It will take some time to adjust and adapt for all of us. And I know when I take my kids to the playground this weekend, I'll be happy not to be wearing a mask.
What about indoors? Is he changing anything about indoors?
Well, the guidance, as you know, that was put out, it was more about mask wearing outside. If you're vaccinated and you wear a mask inside, then you can go to gyms and restaurants and things along those lines. We will still in here, until there's different guidelines, abide by the recommendations of the CDC as it relates to workplaces.
Talk a little bit about the speech tomorrow
Sure.
night. How long do you think it'll be? Is he doing practice sessions? Are cabinet members going to be in attendance? That sort of thing.
Sure. Let me give you as many details as I can at this point, and then we'll continue to provide additional updates. As you all know, there's a briefing later tonight as well. First, Steve, you have covered many presidents who have delivered these addresses. You can be our historian and tell us if any of them have final addresses where we know the exact length about 36 hours in advance. So we're not quite there on that piece yet. But I can tell you that the president has been working on this speech for the last few weeks. He has been preparing with Senior Advisor Mike Donnellan, Director of Speechwriting Vinay Reddy, working on the speech. And really over the last several days, he's been line editing it, meeting with his speechwriters, getting advice and counsel from senior advisors, checking in with members of his family. And also as part of his process, he engages with his policy teams to ask for additional details, ask for further clarification. And certainly given we're rolling out the American Families Plan, that has also been been finalized or in the finalization process through this. I can also tell you that while the major policy announcement in the speech is, of course, the American Families Plan, a historic investment in education and childcare, he will also use the speech as an opportunity to talk about many of his other priorities, including police reform, immigration, gun safety, his ongoing work to get the pandemic under control, and to putting Americans back to work. He was in the Senate for 36 years. He also sat through 8 of these as the vice president, and he certainly recognizes the important opportunity that this offers. In attendance, there will be the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, as well as I think the Supreme Court confirmed the Chief Justice will be in attendance. Joining him will be Dr. Biden, the Vice President, and of course the second gentleman. There will not be a First Lady's box as there has been historically. While the speech will, of course, look and feel different from past years, the president will preserve a few traditions, including the walk down the center aisle that we have seen presidents do for many years. He will, of course, be wearing a mask for that. He'll remove the mask when he delivers his speech. He'll also be meeting with men and women, a career staff who were at the Capitol on January 6th in advance of the speech.
Will he bring up, I know he'll have a foreign policy piece. Will there be a lot of talk about China in this speech?
I expect there certainly will be a foreign policy speech. It's never as much foreign policy as the foreign policy team wants. That's always the battle. But there will be a foreign policy portion of the speech. He will talk about his commitment to re-engaging with the world, taking America's seat back in the world, what our values are as a country, and certainly I would expect he'll talk about a number of the priorities of this administration, including our engagement with China. Go ahead, Peter.
Just for clarity, since the whole cabinet isn't going to be there, in the past there would be a designated survivor. Is there a designated survivor on a night like tomorrow night, and who would that be?
There does not need to be a designated survivor because the cabinet will be watching from their offices or home, but they will not be joining him for the speech.
The highest ranking person who's not present there, I guess we'll sort that out for ourselves thereafter. Let me ask you about the president's remarks earlier. Obviously, this White House, this administration has spent so much time trying to get Americans to wear masks. Right now, with only roughly a third of the American population fully vaccinated, are there concerns that this could cause in some form a resurgence, or that this relies on the honor system and thereby could cause any uptick in COVID?
Well, Peter, I think one of the priorities of the presidents and the vice presidents and our entire team, of course, is abiding by health and medical experts and guidance, but is providing information, transparent information to the public to make clear what the benefit. Have no fear, the ceiling is not falling that I'm aware of. Okay. Okay.
I trust you.
Hopefully, it's an old building. Maybe Lincoln's ghost. That's quite something. Maybe it is. One of the president's priorities is ensuring people understand who are vaccinated out there, who are contemplating whether they should get vaccinated, what the benefits are. And while we will, of course, always abide by the health and medical advice of our experts, the CDC guidelines on this is a step forward because people can go out and they can take their kids to the park and not wear masks if it's not crowded. You can go for a run. That's what they're telling you, and that's safe if you're vaccinated and not wear a mask. And this is important for people to hear as well. So we're at the stage now where we have enough supply. We want to convey to people what the benefits are, and these are some of the benefits.
Help me understand on the July 4th deadline that the president hit, or goal that the president set in his inaugural primetime address from here at the White House. He said, if we do this together by July 4th, there's a good chance that you, your friends, and family can get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout or a barbecue and celebrate Independence Day. Didn't we sort of erase that deadline in some ways and say right now, for those vaccinated, that day is here?
Well, I think it's clear that, as it has been clear for some time, the guidelines from the CDC several weeks ago was also if your neighbors are vaccinated, you can be inside and have dinner with them. What he's trying to convey to the public is when the vaccine is available, when he made that announcement, when the vaccine is broadly available, which it now is to the public as of April 19th, encourage your friends to get vaccinated. Encourage your neighbors to get vaccinated. We know that that's one of the most impactful ways to get people to pharmacies, to their doctor's office to do that, so we can have a barbecue on July 4th. So yes, there are some communities, some people whose neighbors are vaccinated. They can all gather if there's a, April 30th barbecue. But
July 4th is here for some, but not for all, is the point.
Well, the incentive is to get vaccinated so that you can enjoy the benefits of being vaccinated.
Let me ask you, if I can, really quickly about as it relates to Novavax and to AstraZeneca. The White House said that it would be providing 60 million doses to other countries. Has the administration communicated to AstraZeneca and to Novavax that they don't need to rush ahead in their effort to get a EUA right now, and that you're going to be giving it elsewhere?
Well, first, I think we see that as a separate process. They have not applied for an EUA, and nor obviously have they been granted one. We also have ordered 300 million doses from AstraZeneca, which we certainly expect they will deliver on. So we will evaluate. What we're talking about here is, and the reason the 300 million is relevant is because we're talking about 60 million here, 10 of which we expect and hope will be through the FDA review in the next few weeks, and the 50 million in the next few months. But they will decide when they apply for an EUA. We're talking about doses that have not yet been approved that we are going to supply to give to the global community.
Thanks, Jen.
Go ahead.
Sort of a broader, all of government kind of question. A year ago this week, it was said in this room how sunlight might kill the virus and make outdoor transmission unlikely. Clearly things are a little different now. But why have Americans had to wait this long for today's guidance when to many it was quite obvious that this is what the next step was?
Well, Ed, I think we want Americans to be confident in the information they're receiving from the federal government. It's been important to us to lead with health and medical experts, to provide them the time they need to make these evaluations, so that when the CDC comes out with guidance, the American people know they can trust it. And we are working to clean up from a great deal of misinformation, inaccurate information that was put out by the last administration, some of it politically tinged, and it's therefore we've been really leading into the timeline of the health and medical team and experts.
And if there's anyone out there who questions whether this decision coming right before the big speech and right before the 100 days you guys would say,
I can assure you that the CDC makes decisions and does evaluations on their own timeline.
a few other COVID things. Can you confirm whether the administration still plans to buy 100 million more doses of Johnson & Johnson's vaccine?
I don't think anything has changed about our plans.
No idea why there's a delay then in doing so?
A delay in their delivery or a delay in purchasing?
Both.
I'll check on that for you, Ed.
Why the India decision this week, and the president just spoke to it, why wasn't a similar announcement to send resources or help made when Brazil had its outbreak earlier this year? And we know they too were sort of clamoring for international assistance.
Well, Ed, I can speak to kind of where we are obviously we're a provider, as you know, of a great deal of public health assistance to India, but also to Brazil. Our availability at this point of providing certain kinds of resources, including the materials to make vaccine, may not have been at that point several months ago, but I'd have to talk to our team about what the specific requests were and what they feel were not met.
And I'm asking this one on behalf of our Miami TV station.
Okay.
You may have seen this report about a private school in Miami that's telling its staff and teachers not to get the COVID vaccine